Put away the tears and tissue boxes, let's decompress with a much more lighthearted and humorous episode. The show decides to shift the focus to the Telepathy Club and their alien exploits. Let's get recapping. Tomei realizes she's on the cusp of graduating. Thus far, she hasn't found a telepath to communicate with aliens. As a result, she is heart-stricken. However, her club members never shared her enthusiasm and are content with their lackadaisical days. Tomei is crestfallen by this response and disbands the Telepathy Club. During their winter break, the club members enlist Mob, still reeling off the loss of Dimple, as well as Ritsu and the Shiratori twins, hoping they'll know how to reach out to aliens. The brothers' abilities are limited to only transmitting messages to each other. However, they figure they can send a sort of telepathic sonar sound to reach out to others with the same power. They're interrupted by Takanaka. Everyone remembers him, right? No? He's the club member that dropped out from the first season.
Now hold on a second, Takanaka!
I get treated like a weirdo just for being in this stupid club. I can't do it anymore.
He lets them know they're acting ridiculous and should quit playing around. They ignore his advice and continue to blast the signal.
Damn it, knock it off already!
Which gets Takanaka to give in and reveal his telepathic history. While at first he's resistant to lend a hand, Mob lets him know he's not under any obligation, but is able to make him reconsider with a compassionate plea. With a telepath on board, they convince Tomei to join them on their alien communication experiment. Meanwhile, Reigen asks Serizawa if he'd like to join him for a drink after work, but he already made plans with his night school classmates. Reigen then gets a call from Mob requesting a favor on New Year's Eve. Though he acts agitated, Serizawa is able to see through his quibbling and is delighted for him. We end on Reigen giving the kids a lift to Mount Mudboat. With not much going on this episode plot-wise or with the main cast, I gotta say Takanaka steals the show. Despite only appearing halfway through, he had grown up being the only one he knew with his powers, and for some reason he had stopped using them. Interestingly, he mentioned he doesn't want any more bad experiences, but we're not given any examples. I thought it had to do with his mother crying after reading his father's mind, but that was when he was 5 years old. He was still using his powers through the 3rd grade. We know he attempted to find a confidant with whom he could share his experiences with, though we saw how that turned out. Joining the Telepathy Club was a bust. Of course, Mob would be the most likely person to understand Takanaka's perspective. If it weren't for Reigen giving him advice, we could see Mob outright resent being an Esper, like Takanaka. If you recall from Season 1, they established the reason why Mob talks and acts the way he does is due to him constantly sheltering his emotions. He already doesn't like using his powers and sees them as more bothersome than helpful in fulfilling his goals. So you could say it's equally as cathartic on both sides, for the person who needs a sympathetic hand and for the one who's been on the other side. This leads me into speaking about Reigen. His conversation with Serizawa is a firm reminder of how lonely he is. Reigen doesn't have any friends outside of his employees. Mob may have had a similar starting point, but we've seen him gain companions along the way, the telepathy and body improvement clubs, and his friendly one-sided rivalry with Teru. Even a lot of the other supporting cast have multiple social circles. However, Reigen doesn't have much going outside of his career. It's kind of sad because while attention was drawn to it in Season 2, we know at this point he would never obstruct Mob's aspirations again, though there's sort of a melancholy atmosphere. It seems likely that he would return to that lifestyle once Mob is gone. Shockingly little of Tomei in this episode, despite her being the impetus for this whole experiment they're taking on. This is something she's always been more invested in than her club members. However, she gives in to procrastinating a lot and usually tries to use Mob to take initiative. Since Tomei herself doesn't put a lot of effort into this objective, it's never been something I would imagine most would be invested in either. Due to those reasons, I was not won over by her temper tantrum. Add to that, Inukawa took more initiative in this one episode than she had through the entire series. He doesn't even have any investment in aliens whatsoever. He just doesn't want to see his friend be upset. But the story arc is not over yet, so there's still time to present some ambition in Tomei, perhaps a compelling personal reason why she would want to attempt this that will make the audience more empathetic. A lot less happened than expected, but that's also off the back of one of the most emotionally charged episodes. It was a good break from that arc for the audience, and you could say for Mob's sake too, as it serves as a nice distraction from the prior events. The biggest upset was Takanaka going from almost non-existent to one of the most fascinating characters on the show. Looking forward to see if they flesh out more of his past. That's looking like what they're aiming for, and that's all for now.